Hello, I am Kobayashi from Sony. Deep learning has been an international key buzzword since 2015. We are now in 2020, and this technology is beginning to mature. Deep learning is now starting to become a ubiquitous technology, used by everyone in the same way as computers and the internet. Having said that, there are many companies and other organizations that are not yet utilizing deep learning. In this video, I will discuss how easy it is to use deep learning technology, as well as how effectively apply it. This video is perfect for anyone who doesn't know how to apply deep learning or who is considering utilizing this technology. Okay, first let's cover the basics of what deep learning is and what it can do. In this video, I will approach this from a slightly different perspective that should hopefully be easier to conceptualize. I will describe intelligent activities that people perform every day from the perspective of a deep learning process. In this figure, we have a person in the middle that takes some information from the left, processes it, and then performs some action as a result, which is like an output on the right. This framework can be applied to many of the various tasks we perform in society. For example, when driving a car, you control a steering wheel, accelerator, and brake based on visual and auditory information on your surroundings. When inspecting products assembled in a factory, you visually inspect items to determine if they have defect or not. When translating from English into Japanese, you read English content and create Japanese sentences as output. A taxi driver uses information such as day of the week and current weather to determine where it's best to go and find customers. When buying product for retail stores, we use information on what products have sold in the past together with other information to comprehensively predict how much of a particular product will sell. The process of creating meeting minutes involving capturing what was said in a written format. At call centers, agents must understand what customers say and then respond appropriately. The number of such examples is endless, as people in society perform many different tasks in this way. In recent years, we have also used computers more and more to automate various tasks. Ever since we first started using computers, we have been interested in using computers to automate tasks that require a more human ability to process information. Before the advent of deep learning, however, this was not really possible. Why exactly is our brain capable of this kind of intelligent processing? In performing the simple process of identifying if some object is a person or not, for example, you try to determine the outline of a person's body or face and try to determine if this presence has eyes, a nose, and a mouth. This alone is such a complex task in that how exactly does one define what is and isn't an eye, a mouth, or a nose? Everyone's face is also different, and people might be wearing a hat or sunglasses, or have facial hair covering their mouth. The angle of view also is completely different depending on your position and the other object's position. In essence, creating a machine that can accomplish this kind of simple task requires a lot of consideration on many factors. As another example, driving a car requires awareness and processing on many different types sources of information. You must identify the white lines on the road, read and understand traffic lights and signs, maintain awareness of the location of people and other cars, and check a map, all while predicting future movement of other cars and potential hazards. If you think about it, while it may seem like a trivial thing, humans are able to make comprehensive determinations based on many types sources of information and then make judgment of multi-layered complexity. While it appears simple, humans perform extremely complex processing in taking some information and deriving a final answer. Automation requires a computer to perform this kind of complex processing. For many years, we have been researching ways to emulate this processing through programming and simple statistical methods. But unfortunately, we have not even been able to analyze the complex functions that are performed by the human brain. Before the appearance of deep learning, it was not possible to achieve performance similar to that of a human, even after incorporating the result of various research and the wisdom of the human race. However, deep learning is now used to realize this kind of intelligent technology on a practical level. Deep learning is a deep, complex, multi-layered type of processing, similar to the processing performed by the human mind. In other words, we are teaching machines and computers how to learn by themselves. Instead of programming complex, multi-layered processing or building and creating statistical models using mathematics, machines learn by acquiring their own experience through training with data as a training material. By taking this approach, as opposed to specific processing designed by humans, we can achieve processing performance and accuracy that exceeds that of people. The simplest example of machine learning as this process is called would be inspections performed at an assembly factory as mentioned earlier. Seen to be able to determine if a part is defective or not, we need to train the machine with as much data as possible. The more a machine is trained, the smarter it will become, so that it will eventually be able to determine the correct answer in relation to input data. Once the training process is complete on one computer, this can easily be copied to other computers, which is not the case with people. Work can be performed very efficiently because the only resources required are power and computers. Among the different types of deep learning solutions is a technology called neural network that demonstrates performance exceeding that of humans. This is a result of research performed to recreate an artificial version of the human brain on the computer. By feeding a large amount of data consisting of a pair of images of normal products and defective products together with corresponding labels to a neural network acting as a brain recreated on a computer, we can create AI that can inspect images in place of a human. Deep learning can demonstrate performance that exceeds that of humans by feeding more and more data as training material. Human beings live about 80 years on average, while long, it is still a finite amount of time. This 80-year period represents a physical constraint to the amount of experience a human can gain in a lifetime. On the other hand, deep learning technology enables learning based on a significantly large amount of data called big data that a common computer would not be able to process. This is one of the keys that determine whether deep learning can achieve ultra-high performance exceeding that of humans, or whether it is possible to learn from an amount of data so large that it cannot be learned in one person's lifetime. More specifically, data is measured in units of 1 million or 100 million. In 2020, I still hear many accounts of people not getting a high level of performance with deep learning initiatives. The reason for many of these failures is due to insufficient data. Put it this way, training a system using an amount of data so large that a human could not measure in their lifetime increases the potential of automating intelligent tasks with extremely high performance, exceeding that of human experts. Deep learning has been confirmed experimentally to demonstrate increases in performance as the amount of data increases. So even if there is no development in future technology, increasing the amount of data should gradually improve performance. As everyone knows, the amount of data in the world continues to increase. So even difficult problems that have not exceeded human capability yet will likely reach the point where such high-performance system will be necessary. It is extremely realistic to predict that the gap between human capability and technologies that exceed human capability will continue to increase. Constantly feeding this neural network or artificial brain with different kinds of data will result in computer-based systems with many different capabilities. Taking the previous example of translating English to Japanese, we could create a very high-quality machine translation system by training a neural network with a large number of mappings that correlate specific English input to specific Japanese output. By training a system using a large amount of data on the day and location at which taxi drivers have many customers, we can obtain a highly accurate algorithm that predicts good locations for taxi drivers to get customers. Many people have the perception that deep learning can only be used in very specific applications to create high-performance systems, such as achieving image recognition accuracy higher than that of people, or winning a Go game against a professional player. Actually though, the reality is that this technology is highly versatile with the potential to demonstrate various human-like intelligent capabilities and other capabilities. exceeding those of humans and has great promise for the future. Now that the deep learning is being applied in various fields, I think you could even search news and other media using the deep learning as a keyword to find applications of deep learning in your field or area. You may find some interesting success stories. If you don't, this means you may have an opportunity to be the first to successfully incorporate deep learning into your field. Once successfully put into practical use, it will be possible to perform tremendous processing that can be copied and used innumerably like computer software. This would enable new features and capabilities that we haven't yet been able to achieve to be provided to customers. We could improve both work efficiency and quality. You could improve productivity by a factor of several dozen, depending on the extent to which you can successfully integrate this technology. For these reasons, deep learning is truly going to be a game-changing technology that transforms industrial processes. I think there are many people who feel that because deep learning can be used to recreate in computers various intelligent capabilities and complicated processing that could only be performed by humans previously. This means that using such powerful technology requires you to be a researcher or computer expert to use. However, in reality, deep learning is a technology that is extremely easy to use in comparison with other technologies. This ease of use is also one of the main reasons why deep learning has received so much attention. Even though the technology is used by only some people now, I believe it will be used by everyone in the near future, as is the case with modern computers and the internet. At the very least, this technology will likely be widely known and used by engineers. Consider, for example, developing a recognizer that classifies images of handwriting digits as in the figure. What I would like to demonstrate now is a creation of an image recognizer that takes an input of this kind of image and determines what the image is supposed to be as the output. Before deep learning, developing such a technology would have been very difficult. Even if you already know about deep learning, I would like you to imagine how you might try and develop such a technology if you were asked to develop it before you knew about deep learning. If we are using an image of written letters on white paper, first we should consider what pre-processing should be performed, such as removing noise from the image or binarization of data into black and white to make the processing on the computer easier. Another consideration would be the processing to extract features included in the input image to help with identification of specific numbers. For example, how do you determine the location of endpoints and intersecting points in lines, as well as the number of these points? How do you determine areas within circles? How do you determine the angle and length of lines? To be more specific and specialized, we need to design an image processing filter process that converts an image into a signal containing such features. But such image processing requires expertise in image signal processing. Before deep learning, popular method of creating logic that ultimately identified the specific character based on the features of the extracted image included the statistical machine learning method, as well as the method now known as the conventional machine learning method, such as the support vector machine called SVM and random forest. Using these techniques to properly solve problems also requires considerable knowledge. Programming knowledge was also required to combine these techniques in creating a solution to recognize handwriting digits. It took engineers with specialized knowledge of and experience in image signal processing, machine learning, and programming gained by studying at the university for many years, working together to finally produce a working solution. Looking back now, however, the performance of this painstakingly created recognizer was not so high in comparison to both human capability and, of course, to deep learning. With deep learning, we basically train our neural network, the artificial brain, by feeding it lot and lot of data. This seemingly simple process makes it possible to achieve performance that exceeds the conventional method. Preparing the data is something that can be performed by anyone without having to rely on technology. For example, almost any person can draw a table on a piece of paper and have multiple people write numbers from 0 to 9 so as to collect handwritten images. Once we have the data, all we need to do is train the neural network. We also need to design this neural network, but this is much easier than learning traditional signal processing and machine learning programming. If you are interested in learning how to design neural networks, we have videos covering this topic already available in this channel. Please take a look. The hardest part of using deep learning is preparing the data we just discussed. To suppress human capability, we need to collect a dataset so large that it cannot be experienced in one person's lifetime. This requires significant effort. I think this is where people who are struggling with making deep learning practical find difficulty. While collecting enough data is a significant effort, it is not necessarily a difficult task in terms of complexity. One of the key features of deep learning is that almost anyone, even a grade school student, can have access to systems that demonstrate performance exceeding that of humans and to technology that exceeds a level of performance that many experts previously struggled to achieve. I would now like to go through a demo to illustrate how easy it is to use deep learning in the present era. I will introduce you to Neural Network Console, Sony's integrated deep learning development environment. Other companies have also started providing solutions to make deep learning easier to use. Deep learning is evolving year by year, so this demo is just one example of how easy it can be and will continue to become. Skip this next section if you have already been watching our videos on this channel. Okay, so let's create a solution to classify handwritten digits. Create a new project and then load the data you prepared into Neural Network Console. So we want this recognizer to classify this image as a 5 and this image as a 0. We need to prepare and load as many pairs of input data and output data as possible. Once the data is loaded, we need to design the neural network, which is the artificial brain. Doing this requires a bit of technical knowledge, but the knowledge required is still much less than that for the programming we just discussed. Research is currently ongoing to automate even this design process, so that hopefully this process will no longer necessary in the near future. Once the data has been loaded and the neural network has been designed, then you only need to press the Run Training button. Neural Network Console automatically trains a neural network based on provided data. Once the training process completes, you now have a system that can classify handwritten digits. For this simple image classification system, if we increase the dataset to 1 million samples and also increase the size of the neural network accordingly, this will of course increase the training time, but we can create a system with capabilities exceeding those of humans. I think this demo gives you some idea of how easy it can be to develop intelligent technology using deep learning. Let's try using new data, not to use it during the training process, to evaluate the accuracy of this solution to classify handwritten digits that we just created. This process can also be performed with just one click. In this example, we use 60,000 images for training, which resulted in an accuracy of over 99%. I would now like to summarize everything we have discussed in this video. Deep learning is a technology that enables computers to perform multi-layered, complex tasks that humans perform unconsciously. Such tasks were also previously very difficult to replicate and automate. This technology also enables the creation of systems with such a high level of performance capability that can even exceed that of humans because of the ability to train the system using an amount of data so large that it cannot be experienced in one person's lifetime. Deep learning is a general-purpose technology that can be used to create many different types of systems by simply changing the data used for the training process. This technology is also so easy to use that even a grade school student can utilize it. Because of its potential to reform industrial processes, I think you can see why deep learning is such a game-changing technology, why it is gaining much popularity around the world. why big market growth is expected, and why governments and companies are so eager to acquire and develop human resources for this. As you can see, we already have an environment for using deep learning. As such, those who have already been utilizing this technology are increasingly enjoying the benefits. Yet, those who have not started utilizing it feel that AI and deep learning are just buzzwords and not particularly significant or useful. People who have experienced the benefit of this technology are using it more and more to improve the values of products and services to greatly improve business efficiency. On the other hand, it seems that people who have not used this technology are not ever going to. This has developed into a situation in which those using the technology have a huge advantage over those that do not, and this gap is only widening. I think something similar was happened when the internet first appeared in the past. Since 1995, when the internet started becoming popular in ordinary households. For example, it has been easy to have a website. It was easy for anyone to create websites by using text with HTML tags. Using email is also very easy for everyone. In fact, email software is largely unchanged from the software that first appeared back then. As we all know, companies that created websites and started exchanging information globally rapidly experienced massive growth and operational efficiency over those that did not. Imagine how different things would be if those companies that did embrace the internet early had delayed their efforts by 5 or 10 years. AI and deep learning are technologies that are equally effective and immediately available to provide new value to customers and to improve operational efficiency. I think it will be virtually essential to actively utilize deep learning in the future, especially if you are a growing company. Having said that, many people are unsure how to get started. Thanks to the recent rise in popularity though, many books and other materials about deep learning are readily available. Books, workshops, online learning, sample programs, and such are much more abundant. On this YouTube channel, for example, we offer many videos on deep learning ranging from basic knowledge to practical application. All of this content is available without charge. As the need to provide AI training to employees increases, these videos will help make such training a tangible and actionable goal. This content can also be used together with other training materials for an individual to improve their skills or in employee training programs. If you have any questions, please feel free to let us know in the comment section in this video. I would like to answer as many questions from you in future video as possible.